All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Compete Week. It's our 5th year running this event. And I just love the fact that we can all get together, talk as Compete and product marketers to connect and learn and share information with one another. All right. So I'm going to start off by addressing, maybe we call it an elephant in the room. But over the last 18 months, AI has definitely seeped into every corner of how we work. We're chatting with AI like it's a colleague. We're asking it to summarize meetings, to draft emails, to prep us for calls, do research reports, create videos. Some of our kids might even be doing their homework with it. And some of you probably used it this morning without even thinking about it. Certainly for me, it's default to ChatGPT over Google now. It's really become a part of our daily workflow in a way that we've never seen. In 3 short years, it's everywhere. And yet, for all that change, one thing hasn't budged, and that's trust and accuracy. In fact, I'd argue this has become exponentially more important, which I also believe is a great thing for everybody participating in this session today. Trust and accuracy have always been at the heart of your role as a Compete driver and as a product marketer. It's what's earned you credibility inside the company for years. It's what gets you a promotion. It's what people lean on you for and makes you an integral part of your business. So in today's world where everyone can quickly offer an answer that sounds really confident, they can search an LLM that, half the battle is knowing what and who you can actually trust. So I wanted to share what the last 2 years have really taught us about AI at Klue. We've been building, we've been learning, we've been experimenting, we've been iterating, we've had some success, we've had some failures, and we've certainly been seeing the ways in which the industry is trying to wrangle AI to move the competitive space forward. It's powerful, but left on its own, it does break a little bit. We've seen that AI can generate answers, but without the right scaffolding, it might not give the depth of answer or the accuracy that you're looking for. So whether you're using a personal GPT or building agentic systems in your org or connecting all of your internal data into like an LLM that your company is using, there's some gaps that we want to make sure that we address. Probably the best way to think about this is if you're using ChatGPT or Perplexity or Anthropic to learn about a subject that you don't know anything about, if you've never gone to Italy and you're trying to research Italy, you're going to get a bunch of answers that are going to feel very, very impressive. But the minute you start to ask it for answers on something that you know a lot about, that you're quite an expert on, you start to feel that there could be some gaps. It could be shallow a little bit, or it might be inaccurate. And certainly when I started to see that happen, even in our own case with Klue and with other software tools, you could see that some of the answers, the sources, were actually referencing the competitors. So can you trust it if that information is coming from the competitor's site? If the answer is created from a predicted text set taken from a competitor's site? That gets a little worrisome. And it's where we want Compete drivers to be able to insert their context, to have their verification, to have their understanding added to the broad corpus of information that we're going to pull together. Now, when I pull out of this, I think of some of the reports that we've seen scattered around the web now. MIT just came out with a report recently talking about how homegrown AI only succeeds a third as often as specialized tools. So there's a whole depth in there that we could go into talking about how tools like Klue and others are building AI into it that are special purpose. And yet companies themselves are also building on top of their own LLMs and connecting their own data sets. Which works best? How can they play well together? That was part of the MIT report saying that a third of those internally built solutions are challenged when it comes to specific use cases. And then you move on to kind of some of the other pieces, say the ChatGPT launch. CNN was talking about how it might be dumber than it was before, better on some things, dumber on others. But no matter what, we're all going to rely on using AI every day, whether that's in the tools that we're licensing or going directly to a version of ChatGPT, either public or within our enterprise. That tension is telling us something. Everybody wants the power and the speed of getting the answers, but there's a question of trust. As it relates to competitive intelligence, we know that there's 4 ingredients that collectively make or break trust and accuracy and usability even of how AI gets used within Compete. These 4, I'm going to break it down. I'm going to start with the first piece. That's the right data. data sourcing is foundation one. AI is only as good as the data you feed it, the classic of garbage in, garbage out. And competitive data, we know, is messy. It lives in a whole bunch of places. It lives inside your organization, inside of CRM and Gong and call recordings and Slack and sales notes. It lives outside your organization across the broad web and license data. It lives in the buyer's mind with buyer insights. There's a whole bunch of these data sources that we need to bring together. And if you don't source the right signals, you start with a very weak foundation. Now, let's assume we get the right data in. The next foundation is enriching that data. Raw data is just noise. We're not going to plug every Gong call in the world, every note in the world, every CRM field in the world into every prompt. We're going to selectively extract the good bits. We're going to weight Kim's stuff over Tom's stuff because the way that she articulated an objection handling was better. We're going to actually normalize that data so we don't feed a million tokens through every request and we reduce the cost down and chunk this information. We're going to normalize it over time so that we're seeing where one source connects to another. This is all part of a big data enrichment plumbing factor that we have to put together. What quote's relevant, what pricing data points current. Without enrichment, you just end up drowning in this unverified morass of intel. Now let's move to the third pillar, insight generation. This is really the hardest part. It's about prompting it really elegantly, turning the unstructured data into the insights that we need. And we're going to do that by querying at a very deep level. We've all used ChatGPT and done very light prompts. I want to see it dance with a single sentence. In our world, that's not going to be good enough. A seller might ask something very lightly. Hey, how do I compare and how do I compete against them on this AI thing? That might be their prompt. When we know that's about a compete issue, we're going to trigger a whole iceberg level of prompt, pages of prompt beneath that to articulate it in a finer point way in order to come back with an output, the objection, the strength, the talk track, the win-loss reason that's really going to resonate. This is what separates kind of a light prompt into a great prompt. And it's what creates an amazing output versus a light output, a shallow output, maybe even an inaccurate output. So putting it more simply, we get the data sourced in, we enrich that, and we create the great prompts and generate the insight that connects all of the dots together to produce an evidence-based, actionable insight that we know people will use. Now let's get to the use part. That's the fourth pillar, insight delivery. Even the best insight that we come out with will die on the vine if it's too long, if it lives inside of a document that people can't find. We need to figure out how to come up with the right length of answer, the breadcrumbing approach to how they'll use it, enabling them to copy and paste it, or actually delivering it inside the tools that they're in. Maybe it's in the email that they can forward. Maybe it's in the Salesforce field. Maybe it's in Slack itself. And we want to interpret what that seller is really going to need. So shaping the answer in the right moment and the right format is everything. We've got to give it to them in the way that they'll digest it. Otherwise, adoption is going to tank. So those are the four kind of core pillars. We think about getting the right data in, selectively extracting and weighting the good bits and normalizing that data, coming up with the sophisticated prompts that are kind of buried beneath maybe a very light prompt, and then figuring out all the little subtleties that make somebody actually absorb this information. Not too long, not too short, formatted in a specific way. It should look like this slide in my brand guidelines, or it should look like a Disney movie, or it should be easily copy and pasted into something else. Those four collective, data sourcing, data enrichment, insight generation, and insight delivery, collectively are what we need to do. And one more piece. On that data sourcing, let's not forget about the context that you as compete drivers, that you as product marketers need to add. You're going to look at that and verify it. You're going to stamp your approval of some of that data that's going in and probably some of the outputs to ensure the model is trained and producing the good bits. We got to make sure that trust is paramount in those outputs. It's trusted data and it's something they're going to absorb. We want the AI to produce insights that people will actually believe and use. Now there's one more thing, speed. Creating trusted insights used to take hours or days. We've all spent time creating decks, docs, clue cards. Everything takes a long time to continually find what's new and to update what's old into the good stuff and then organize it into a fashion, into a format that people are actually going to use. When we scaffold this correctly, all of that time collapses. Compete drivers can scale the impact that they have without working 80-hour work weeks. In fact, cover a lot more competitors, go deeper on the ones that matter without actually spending more time. This is the benefit of where AI supercharges your efforts. But how are you going to make it real? How do you take all that messy, unstructured data that's coming from all of these different internal and external sources, the win-loss transcripts, and transform it into something that the sellers believe and act on? That's exactly what Adam Houghton is here to walk us through. He's going to share how we put that information together, how we bundle it, and how sellers could actually use it. Over to Adam.
All right, Jason just laid out the scaffolding you need to make AI usable: sourcing, enrichment, generation, and delivery. Here's the reality. LLMs on their own don't do those steps. They're great at summarizing a call or drafting content, but when you ask them to combine sources, weigh recency, or determine what's credible, that's where things can start to break down. Why? Because they don't know which data points matter most. They treat a stray Reddit thread the same as a line from your CRM. They struggle with recency, what's credible, or how to weigh one source against another. And in competitive intelligence, that distinction can be everything. It's not that LLMs are bad, it's that LLMs alone aren't good enough. So we built something different. Think of them as specialized AI agents, each designed to do a very specific job in competitive intelligence. One scans the web for pricing updates, another analyzes gong calls for objections, another pulls CRM data for win-loss signals. Alone, they're useful, but when they run in sequence, they do something much bigger. They generate structured, trustworthy insights. Insights that don't just summarize, but are accurate, fresh, and usable to win competitive deals. For example, our pricing insight updates every Monday. It pulls pricing from competitor sites and reviews, adds market perception, and attaches confidence ratings. So you don't just know the number, you know how the market views it and how confident we are in that data. Instead of generic playbooks or you watching every sales call, our Compete agent generates objection handling that works by pulling real objection responses that our proprietary system has deemed as successful, with links back to the original snippet of why it worked. Or at the start of every week, our Compete agent scans internal docs and consolidates the top 6 reasons why we win and lose. It's prescriptive, up-to-date, and replaces hours of manual analysis. Every insight tied back to a verifiable source: gong snippets, CRM data, live URLs, nothing unverified, nothing uncited. Every insight is structured into a usable format: objections, pricing tables, win reasons, not just blobs of text. And every insight stays fresh. Weekly pricing updates, daily news scans, ongoing call analysis. Sellers never wonder, is this still true? With these insights, our customers can do the work that used to take weeks in just minutes. For example, you have the ability to provide a SWOT analysis on your top competitors based on real buyer intel in just one prompt. Or you can build a comprehensive win-loss report that is board ready based on your competitive deals over the past quarter. And here's the thing. We know that many of you are also investing in GPT copilots as the single pane of glass for your sellers. We think that's great. But remember, copilots are only as good as the data they're pulling from. If all they see is unstructured noise, you'll get unreliable answers. Unreliable answers equals eroding trust in your intel. Eroding trust in your intel equals adoption plummeting to ever supporting a deal again. That's why teams use Klue as the Compete engine to fuel their internal systems. You get both trusted insights in Klue and the ability to surface those insights inside your GPTs and LLMs through our content API. Your org-wide LLMs can turn to the content you've verified and published in Klue so that reps aren't coming up with their own bespoke answers. You're not getting pinged 24/7 anymore, and the org can stay on message around your competitive points of view. And so that's what generated insights are all about: turning messy, unstructured data into competitive insights that are trustworthy, accurate, and always fresh. It's the scaffolding Jason talked about, put into action, and it's what anchors our Compete agent today while powering what we're building for the future.
All right, thanks for that, Adam. Really appreciate you walking us through that foundation. I love that stuff. Now we can actually produce these insights at scale super quickly. We've got a whole team dedicated to that. You saw what prospects are saying. You saw some of the pricing stuff. You saw how and why you're losing or winning different deals based on some of the data that we're pulling in automatically. That stuff's all great. And we've now have the ability to create these recipes in a way that very quickly can be materialized and pushed out to your team. So here's why all that stuff matters. Like for years, compete leaders like all of you have been driving revenue, right? You're the ones that are jumping into a 6-figure deal. You're coaching a seller through, a super tough objection, and you're shaping the strategy at the executive level that's going to win business. None of that is new, right? What is new is the ability to do it at scale. With AI and this right scaffolding, you can create these trusted, accurate insights in a fraction of the time that it used to take you. So that enables you to scale your influence across every rep, every deal. It's not a battle card on a competitor anymore. It's like a deal card on every single deal, personalized for every single rep. And you can do that every day. That's the shift. You creating revenue impact at scale. No longer the unsung hero in a few marquee opportunities, but the ability now to put that knowledge, that context, that expertise, that verification, that trust on rails. And that's only possible if we nail this trust and accuracy, if we build upon something that people will trust. Without it, none of it scales. Now, Katie has been living this reality at Klue. She leads our sales organization. She sees the volume, the intensity of competition. She's doing it with a lean team like everybody is now. And she's going to show you exactly how we do this, how we're putting all of this into action, how we'll take a deal tip and leverage it in the context, in the email itself, where we're pre-prompting the LLM to do it and delivering it through email, and maybe allowing the salespeople directly to do it and Ask Klue. Katie, over to you. Show us how it's done.
Thanks, Jason. I loved how you framed that because it's true. Compete leaders have always been revenue drivers. You've been on the front lines of the biggest deals, shaping strategy and helping sellers close business. And stepping into the sales leader role this past year myself, I've seen just how critical that impact is. But I've also seen how hard it is to scale it. Hundreds of deals moving at once, competitors showing up in nearly every cycle, and a lean enablement and product marketing team that simply can't jump in on every deal every time. It's not that our team doesn't want to support, it's that the volume and intensity make it impossible to cover everything. That leaves sellers in a tough spot. They're facing unique buyer dynamics and competitive threats in every conversation. And too often, they're left to figure it out on their own. Do they know the right objection to lean on? Do they know the talk track that actually worked last month against competitor XYZ? Do they have the pricing story that closes the gap? Without that guidance in the moment, deals slip. And as a sales leader, I feel it in the numbers. That's why Deal Tips is such a game changer. Instead of waiting for a seller to come to ask for help, Klue is scanning live deals and proactively surfacing competitive coaching. If Klue detects a competitive threat when scanning your CRM or sales calls, the rep gets a deal tip right to their inbox, a short, actionable piece of intel tailored to their deal stage and competitor. What to lean on, what to watch out for, and how to reframe the conversation. It's like dropping a coach right into their deal, and it happens automatically across every seller. The other piece is Ask Klue. Sellers don't always need proactive coaching. Sometimes they need answers on demand. Ask Klue is the always-on place they can go to get them. Whether they're prepping for a call, replying to a prospect email, or mid-cycle when a competitor pops up, they can just ask. Picture a rep mid-cycle, and a buyer says, "We're also evaluating competitor Y." With Ask Klue, the rep can ask what are the proven talk tracks, features, and proof points that will help win against that specific competitor. And in seconds, they get a clean talk track with proof points delivered right where they're already working. They can also get these answers in Slack or Salesforce, so they're not hopping into a million different tools. And for the compete drivers and product marketers in this room, this is where the real value comes in. You don't have to be pinged 24/7 for one-off requests. You don't have to chase sellers down or worry that they'll go rogue with their own answer. You can support every seller at scale with consistent, trusted messaging.
All right, we have covered a lot today. Adam showed you how we're generating insights that are trustworthy and fresh. Katie showed you what that looks like in action with real sellers, real deals, competing with confidence, because they're actually armed with the right intel at the right time. And here's the bigger truth. Go-to-market teams everywhere are consolidating into a single interface. It might be a single GPT. It might be a Copilot. It might be Salesforce. That's all fine. Those systems are only as good as the data you feed them. And that's why we're building Klue, not only as a platform, but really as a compete engine that can plug into any of those tools, that can power every deal, fuel your Copilot with insight that you can actually trust and that your sellers can actually trust. So let's no longer settle for static battle cards. Let's not settle for generic GPT guesses. Your team deserves insights that they can trust. Your sellers deserve coaching at scale, deal level support at scale. And you deserve time back to focus on the high value strategy, on the context, on the verification, on supporting your executives and winning the deals that matter most. Now, we're not stopping there. We're expanding our data sources continually. We're licensing new data. We're deeply integrating with Google Drive, Microsoft, deeper call integrations, and more. So your insights are always going to be updated and grounded with fresh customer and compete data. I couldn't be more excited about what we're building and about what you're going to hear through the rest of Compete Week. We've got customers, we've got experts, people who have been in the trenches, sharing their knowledge on how to make this real inside your own organization. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for participating. Thank you for sharing. Let's have an incredible day.